Welcome back to another great episode of Common Ground. We have a great show for you today. It is still election seasons. There's runoffs in the air. Let's hear about one of them in a minute. But first, a message from our sponsor.
Hello, I'm Brant Frost with First Liberty Building and Loan. At First Liberty, we provide commercial financing for Main Street entrepreneurs to buy, build, and grow things. If you have good credit, a smart business plan, and a big dream, call us at First Liberty. Let us put our creative capital to work for you.
Hey friends, welcome back to the show, and as promised, it's still election season. I know you wish it was over, as do some of the candidates, but with us today in studio, we have Linda Menk in a runoff for school board in Coweta County. Linda, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mike. District 4.
District 4.
Yes.
So very tight race. There was a three-way race. You finished right there, neck and neck with the other one of the other candidates, and so heading to a runoff. The date of the runoff is what? June 20?
Early voting starts June the 13th. That is a Monday, and it'll run all that week. And then the following Tuesday, I believe that is the 21st, is Election Day.
Okay, so
That's
very
it.
short runoff.
Very short.
Personally, I like that.
I do too.
I've been exposed to some very drawn-out runoffs, but this I think is timely because people lose focus and type things. So, what's interesting, so we went back and there were several candidates. There were challengers on every seat that was being up for election.
Mm-hmm.
The incumbents won across the board. You're also an incumbent, but there was a candidate that made that not possible. Then you head to a runoff. What do you think when we look at the runoff? What are you telling folks? Why should they send you back to the school board, for another term? You served 2 terms on the school board, especially with the outcome. So there's not going to be any new voices on the school board.
Right.
All the other incumbents won. We know how they tend to respond in a school board meeting, right?
Yes.
It's just nod with whatever the superintendent says.
That's correct.
What would you say is your most compelling reason folks should send you back for another term on the school board?
Because I have consistently been the voice of the voiceless. The teachers who are terrified to speak up about what goes on in the classrooms with regard to suggested lesson plans, curriculum, student behavior.
Safety
is a huge topic.
For our teachers, not just our students, but
for teachers and for students. Yeah. And I've also been the consistent voice for the parents who call me. I mean, every week it's several phone calls I get from parents that's saying, I need help. Mm-hmm. No one is helping me. They have no voice.
Yeah.
And so that is what I've focused my time and energy on. I'm elected.
You don't run around and show up at photo ops to look good in the front page?
I don't consider that. I understand that those things are very important to some people. They want to see you at the graduation, smiling and cheering. And I've explained this on a previous show with you, Mike, that I've been to one of our graduations at Northgate, and sitting there up on that stage, handing out the diplomas, in the cap and the gown and the regalia. And I'm watching the people filter into that football stadium and setting up in the bleachers in the sun, and I'm in the shade. All right, I'm special.
You're on stage.
Yeah, and I'm watching, and I know a lot of the people that are coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, how many of those teachers sitting out there in those hot bleachers saw a student that just needed a little extra something, and they donated their time. They didn't get paid for it, but they donated their personal time to help that student, or a student who was really excelling at something. And there was more that teacher could offer them outside of the norm in the classroom to really help them excel. What about the bus drivers who see things going on in various neighborhoods in our communities that need some attention? What about the parents who donate additional time to help with our sports events? Maybe they work an extra job so their child can play sports or be in a band. Those are the heroes in our community. Those are the people that need to be setting up on that stage and being recognized.
Right.
Because I look at the other board members, not one of us spends any time tutoring a child
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
going that extra mile. You just show up and get your picture taken.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the voice of, I like to be the voice of the voiceless.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned teachers, which is interesting. I can see where parents would be frustrated with the system and not making it through the administration, and you being accessible and helpful in trying to navigate that. But teachers are at an extreme disadvantage.
Very
Because
much so.
the structure of the school system is such that if they speak out against it,
That's right.
they get punished. They get
Their evaluations.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so much of their future earning potential and their career in the school system is dependent on how the system sees them. So that's an
Right.
important role to have. I'm sure it's not in the description of school board member, but I think one of the other things I've seen going to the meetings is watching how, and knowing you personally, is watching how you'll ask questions people won't ask. I
Right.
mean, you know, you're supposed to guide the system through, not just rubber stamp what the
Everything,
whole,
yeah.
what the country is doing scholastically and educationally in our country in public schooling. So you've always been that person that asks those questions, and they seem to vilify you for that. It's like,
Yeah, they don't like it when you start asking questions. And I asked, and like with our senior citizens, you know, somebody made the comment that, well, you know, you voted against the turf fields. And I love that subject when they bring it up, because a couple of points that need to be brought out on this that nobody focuses on. First of all, the school board and the public had been told for years, 4 years, that Barker had formed this committee of concerned community stakeholders. They're going to do this exhaustive 4-year study on all the different turf manufacturers and this, that, and the other. They were going to visit all these schools. And we were going to get a copy of that report before we voted on it.
Right.
We never got the report. And I asked for it. And Barker told me I didn't need it just to vote for it. He wanted a unanimous vote. Well, I asked for a delay.
Right.
It took me 11 months and $30,000 in legal fees to finally get that report. And guess what was in it? The committee was all employees of the school system that are beholding to making the superintendent happy for whatever it is.
Indirectly. yes.
Indirectly.
That's right.
You want your contract renewed, you better go along with it.
Yeah.
So the 11 schools that they claimed that they visited, I called every one of them. No one from Coweta County had ever come to visit them. And not one of those schools bought the same turf product that we bought. And then they like to bring up the Wilson Ware report. They put me through the Wilson Ware, Kerry Ware and Bob Wilson put me through 6 hours of interrogation, my attorney and I. And I made transcripts of both of those 2 sessions. I made it public information. In 6 hours, do you know how many questions they asked me about turf?
Probably one.
One question.
Yes.
The rest of it was about my personal
Was an
life,
inquisition.
my friends. I mean, it was
And people
despicable.
don't understand that. And the problem is, Linda, is in campaigns, it's a postcard.
Right.
It's a soundbite from a chamber event where everybody gets 10 seconds to respond.
Right.
And and the average voter just doesn't get the information.
Right.
And so they don't get to make a good decision. But I mean, it's
No.
simple to me, because every mischaracterization they have of you out there, and of those other great candidates that we had running for school board, where they came up with this nonsense, the fake 4 or something that they were trying to disparage folks with. These were some very high quality people offering their time to serve in a capacity to make Coweta schools better. And it was all characterized that the whole goal of this is to get rid of public schooling in Coweta County. I mean, that's just nonsense.
That had nothing, absolutely. We're trying to improve public education.
Coweta County should have the best school system in Georgia.
Considering the amount of money we spend on it, we should.
Or top 10, maybe.
Right.
You know, it goes back to they were all running around claiming that we made the list of USA Today's best high schools in America.
Yeah, I know.
So everyone, you got to go look at that report. But it lists like 12,000 schools in
Right.
America.
Yeah.
And it says at the bottom, in its footnotes of its methodologies and everything, if you look at it,
Yeah.
that virtually every high school in America made the list. It's just where you landed on the list is
Right.
the question. So if you're one of the best high schools in America, what would you think would be best? Maybe top 10?
You would think that you would
top
score at
100?
least. I would hope that you would score at least a 90.
Yes, in every category.
In
to
every
be
category.
considered the
Yeah,
best.
you would think,
We kind of
yeah.
rate our students that way. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they used to. I don't know. Maybe they don't because they don't want to offend anybody. But yes, that performance criteria. Well, if you look at the measuring things, the best school, the high school in Coweta was Northgate.
Right.
The second best was
East Coweta was
Noonan was second best.
Noonan High.
and then I think East Coweta finished third in the rankings. Now, keep in mind, these are their rankings with their criteria.
And everybody's bragging about
And
it.
bragging about how we
Oh,
did
yeah.
this. You know
Yeah.
where we landed in that list? Our best school landed number over 3,100 down the list.
Right.
I think it was 3172. And so, and then I
In the
think
30
East Coweta.
percentile. And
Yeah, something like that,
yeah,
right?
30 percentile, yeah.
And then I think East Coweta finished its number 7,000 on the list. And their claim is, our existing school board's claim is they brag about this.
I know.
So if they want the status quo, if they want mediocrity, then good job, Coweta County. You just reelected most of your school board.
Right.
That perpetuates mediocrity when you had 4 people willing to stand up and say, I think we can do better. We can do better with the money we're given. We can do better, be better stewards of that. We could advance our students in a more productive way. Northgate, being the best one in Coweta County, still had a 30% college readiness score on that list.
I know.
30%. I think East Coweta's was in the 20% range.
Yeah.
College readiness. After this investment per student for a dozen years, only 30% at
And
our
they-
best school
yeah.
are ready for college.
And they wonder why, and I brought this up before, if you look at our population growth over the last 10, 12 years.
It's flat.
The
Student
well,
the student population's flat.
but the overall population of the
increased.
county has increased over 18, it's almost 19% over the last 10, 12 years.
Right.
But our public school enrollment has only increased 17 students per year.
Yes.
The reason people move to Coweta County is not because of our public education system, and that ought to be one of the reasons why they want to move here. Mm-hmm. But if you have children in school, Coweta County is attractive because we have 3 faith-based schools, we have 2 charter schools, we have a private school, and we have the presence here of 8 national level homeschooling networks.
Yes, they really do.
And so we offer parents of children choices.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a critical component to the growth of any community.
Mm-hmm.
Then you add to it the transportation corridor that we have the luxury of enjoying here.
Right.
Easy access in and out of the Atlanta airport. And let's not downsize the importance of being close to that airport
Oh, it's
and the
important.
tributary businesses and industry that it creates. And it was really funny because when I was out door-to-door campaigning, I ran into a teacher. She doesn't teach in Coweta County. She teaches, I believe, in Fayette County. But she's German. And I spent probably an hour with her. Her husband is an executive with a company out of Germany that is wanting to relocate. And he said they're looking strongly at Peachtree City. And she said, Linda, I wish, is there any way that we could get she said his company would come in here and invest in a training facility for your students. Can we get some? I said, if you get the right school board in there, absolutely we can.
Right.
Because Mark Whitlock over at our CEC does an exceptional job. They need a new campus. And what she and I were, we were right in sync with one another. And what the people in this county have got to understand is that if we offer our students who really don't want to go to college, they're ready to go to work. And if you teach them a career and a skill, and then offer them the opportunity to expand on that knowledge and experience, and to grow a career, they may move away for a little while for additional training or job opportunity, but eventually they're going to come back here.
Right.
And that's what you want to grow your county and your tax base. And so it was a great conversation that she and I had, but those were the ideas that our slate of candidates were wanting to bring to the school board.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
good luck with that now.
Well,
Oh,
yes,
well.
that type of thing, sure. So, I mean, the voters are going to be faced with, I mean, one of the things that's happened, they talk about record turnout, how it was just such a huge turnout. People still don't understand. That still means 2 out of 3 voters sat home.
I know.
Right? So
sad.
1/3 of the voters showed up, and they call it record turnout in the primary.
Right.
Wait till the runoff. Are we maybe 10% for
Maybe,
the runoff?
Maybe.
And so you've just got to connect with those voters and see if this message can get to them. If the voters want somebody that asks the tough questions, asks the smart questions, and brings fresh ideas, they're going to need to talk to you.
Well, the other
Right.
thing that I'm going to continue to push for, and I've been doing this since 2017, you know, we had this horrible incident last week in Uvalde, Texas.
Right.
A tragedy that no one could see that coming, and it's something that you just pray to God it doesn't happen in your community.
Oh, sure.
And what really, I started this in 2017 when Coach Smalls over at East Coweta High was called to check by an atheist organization, and our school board, with the exception of me, allowed it to the policy to just remain in place to make sure that no employee of the school system participated in prayer. And I've watched, since Uvalde happened last week, people running around, ranting and raving and screaming and hollering, pray for our schools.
Yeah.
But why aren't they ranting and raving to reinstate prayer in schools and at our school board meetings?
Yeah.
At the Noonan High graduation last week, they didn't have prayer. They had a moment of silence.
That's the most
And
annoying thing
it's
to me.
it's mind-boggling to me. So I'm going to continue to fight for that.
Yeah.
And
So how do you do that? So I agree. I think as a Christian nation, I still believe that's what we are. Certainly founded in those
Right.
that framework, that worldview created, the United States of America. But we also have a system where the Supreme Court, the year I was born, I think said prayer is not allowed in school.
That has been tested
1963.
in Florida.
It's-
There's a school system in Florida that reinstated that. I spoke to the attorney who was involved in that.
A voluntary prayer, not a
It's a
compulsory
voluntary prayer.
right?
It's not compulsory. They have yet to be challenged by any of these atheist organizations. That
Well, the thing
policy
is,
doesn't
our
that we
current-
could marry it.
Well, our school board would fold. We get an atheist organization comes down and threatens to sue,
Right.
and we fold.
Exactly.
Well, not you.
No.
You tried to fight and say, wait a minute, we
Yeah.
shouldn't,
Let's-
because you
let's-
invite them to come back and
yeah.
stick their finger in your eye in the future.
And somebody shared with me immediately right after I was elected, the first time, and it's a mantra that I have adopted and I truly believe, and that is, when the people lead, the politicians follow. This community, we had the question was on the ballot in 2016. Wanted the voters' opinion, would you be in favor of reinstating prayer in school? 97% of the voters said yes. This community has got to lead that school board.
Right.
Stop sitting at home.
Well, it's tough when the school board, you go to a school board meeting, it's like a gauntlet. It's the most uncomfortable thing for the public to show up. If you have anything that's contrary to whatever they're doing, you're put in the box and you're made to just say your piece in a certain time frame, in a certain way, with no response from school board members.
No, I respond to them.
Well, I know you're different, but I mean, it's tough for the public to do that. But I guess people rise up, but you're right, or they'll just vote for status quo, and we'll just watch the continued deterioration of public schooling in America.
Where are our pastors? Why aren't they showing up at the school board meetings with members from their congregation?
Yeah.
And signing up to speak and saying, put God, a voluntary prayer, put it back, give the children the option. And I started doing a little bit of research, and we keep hearing about all these shootings, these mass shootings going on in schools. And there's statistical data out there that when we took prayer and God out of schools, that is when those numbers, but prior to that, some violence in schools did occur.
Right.
But going all the way back to the 1800s. Very few instances of those. And that was with adults. But as far as children actually picking up a weapon and going into a school and murdering fellow students, that started to occur, and it has only gotten worse since we took prayer out of schools.
Yeah.
And if you start digging in and doing your research, you will see how it continues to grow and grow.
Well, I mean, we focus on specifically the prayer in school. It reflects a greater cultural decay.
Yes, it does.
It's not just the morning prayer in school.
But it may be the only exposure that a child has.
Be. Yeah, it could be. But I think they're more concerned about making sure they're confused about their gender before they get out of first grade.
Yeah. And what pronoun do we use?
Right. And so we need a school board that will stand up to the woke nonsense being forced. What they don't get, the CRT, the SEL, all these things that are filtering into the curriculum.
Yes.
Without being specifically labeled that
way. They slip through the back door.
Well, it's just written that way.
Yeah, brain pop, and we've shown it to people. We have exposed, parents have come to the school board meeting and actually read the pornography that's in our media centers, even down in our middle schools. And it was funny because the superintendent, even though they said it wasn't there, and then the superintendent reversed course and said, okay, it's there. Now we're going to have a committee that's going to review all of our media center materials. So it dawned on me, I called these parents that were showing up and disclosing it to the public. And I called various members in that group and I said, were you asked to serve on that committee? Nope, and we volunteered. They don't want us on the committee.
Interesting.
So I go back to when the people lead, the politicians follow.
Right.
And and the teachers that are seeing this stuff that they're trying to force them to do, our teachers have no voice.
Yeah,
they
have in a difficult
they're
position.
caught,
Yeah.
they're trapped. I spoke to a teacher last week that called me. He was so upset because the principal of his school basically just told the teachers, you better not vote for them. And he said, I'm out of here. I'm just out.
Yeah.
But to have that level of disrespect first of all, how in the dickens is a principal going to know how you vote? I mean, the insanity of that.
Well, they've got to make sure that there's a high enough paying job in the administration.
Well, yeah, they're making six figures, man. And getting bonuses and there's some hefty little bonuses that come through our payroll.
Well, I mean, not to minimize that. I mean, it's a career. They make a decision. They're going to be in this environment, and the dollars are there that support this type of thing. But we got to step back and measure success for our kids. Are we better at educating our kids? We should be. We should be by leaps and bounds. Our kids should be higher performing in the core disciplines,
right?
That, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah.
Just simply that, you know. And if you could give them some cultural foundation beneath that, and some reinforcement of positive values and concepts like morality and where those concepts come from,
right,
that would be good. That would be a framework. You know, I don't say we have to have 100% college-ready kids, but we need life-ready kids.
right.
And they're not measuring that. But I'm telling you, we're not succeeding. Certainly in our public school systems, and it's not just Coweta; it's across the nation. You
Yeah.
see it in Uvalde. That is a broken system, and this young man that just was possessed of evil to do what he did. Somewhere along the line, it all derailed,
right,
in his life. And it's not the school. I'm not
Yeah,
putting it
I
on
know.
the school system. It's parents, family, whatever all that is.
That was the
And
conversation.
society,
Yep.
society in general. What are we showing our kids?
Right.
What's in our media centers?
That's the conversation that I had with Sheriff Wood. I spoke with Lynn, I think it was yesterday. First of all, I have every confidence in our Sheriff's Department and our SROs. We are so blessed to have them.
But they're not in every school, correct?
Yes, they are.
That we have an SRO in every single school.
They're on campus, they're in and around the
Okay.
schools. Yes, we are covered. The
I
training
thought some of
program.
them were roaming, but okay. Okay.
They-
If you say they're at every school,
He,
then okay.
but there's a new program that they've just brought their first cadet through it that is very exciting, but that's a story for him to tell.
Okay.
But I have every confidence in our SROs. But to go back to what you were saying, is that yes, there's an SRO in the school and he is armed, he or she. Thank God they're armed.
Right.
I had a parent that actually was upset. She said, well, I want SROs, but I don't want them carrying a weapon. And I'm like, okay, so if something were to happen, what do you want them to do? Throw rocks at the shooter?
Push a button.
Yeah,
make a
I mean,
phone
give me a
call.
break.
No, obviously
So-
we see how critical quick response is
But
in these situations.
The SROs can only do so much. It's that fabric
It's
that
the-
we're
yeah,
weaving into our
family,
children,
culture.
the values, the respect,
Yeah.
the discipline.
And no school board can manifest that in and of itself. I mean, it's so much bigger than that.
It does take a village.
Oh, don't say that.
It does. I know you don't want to hear it.
No, I mean, the concept is there.
Yeah.
It takes a worldview that
Right.
supports it. It's like was it Franklin that said, "What kind of government do you have? It's one only suited for a moral and religious people.
Right.
It's wholly unsuited for the governance of any other, because it requires self-governance." And so that's our framework. We need something that supports a governance, a self-governance, you know, that we moderate ourselves. And so that's the challenge. But it all works together. Like you said,
Right.
you need a healthy, active school board that's actively trying to enhance the quality of education in our public domain.
The last when we take our oath of office, and I keep going back to this, and I know people get tired of me saying it. When we take our oath of office, when we're sworn in, the last 4 words,
So help me
and
God.
so help me God,
Yeah,
so help me. Doesn't that mean anything to anybody?
yeah.
The community is going to have to hold us accountable.
Yeah. It'll be up to them. And so we'll see what they
Right.
do. We'll see what the vote turnout,
Right.
right? I mean, thanks.
And
for
if people
your-
want the status quo and let's just go along to get along, and if we're challenged by an atheist group, let's just kneel to them and just let them have it, and let the porn run through the school system.
Yeah, they'll filter.
And
it
we'll
won't be
just
too
turn a
hard.
blind eye. If that's what the people want, they'll vote for it.
They will. Yeah, even if it's just
Yeah.
purely out of ignorance. Isn't that
That's where we are.
that's where we are for
Yeah.
sure. Well, you've given 8 great years of service there. I hope you
I
get,
hope to do 4 more.
I hope you get 4
Yeah.
more You've been a true champion of that. Do you have a Facebook page or where people can reach
I'm
out?
still Linda Menk for school board.
Linda Menk for school board.
I don't change much. Yeah, just
Well,
plod along.
well, that's a good thing. Well, Linda, thank you for coming back
Thank
on
you,
the
Mike.
show. Friends,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you for watching this. I tell you, it's rare you get a great opportunity at this level of government to have somebody that actually does the job. And what's wrong out there is the mischaracterization coming from our local paper and local leaders about everything that Linda and friends of good education have fought for here in Coweta County. But you get an opportunity, you got to run off here within a month. You can do the right thing or not, and we'll see how that goes. But spread the word, share this, like it, send it to your friends on your social media page, get the word around. Maybe we'll have a little better than 10% turnout, right, Linda?
I hope so.
I hope
Yeah.
so.
God bless you, Mike.
Thank you. Blessings to you, my friend. Blessings to you too. Come back and see us on Common Ground.